You're listening to Morning Edition on this Thursday here on WCBU. I'm Ryan Denham. An annual report released this month by the Peoria County State's Attorney's Office offers a statistical look at criminal justice here in 2025. Highlights include charges filed in all 12 of that year's homicides, a 40% decrease in drug charges, and more than 350 juvenile cases filed. State's Attorney Jodi Hoos says the report offers a snapshot look at their side of the local criminal justice system, emphasizing parts of the process that many people don't see. WCBU reporter Joe Deacon spoke with Hoos about what she views as the successes of her department in the past year.
I think anytime we can hold a defendant accountable for the victims of crime, at the end of the day, that's who we represent. We represent the victims and society in general. And I think we are successful in helping those victims through the court process, even though it's a terrible tragedy, obviously, that the victims and their families have to go through. Hopefully, at the end of that road, we can give them a little bit of justice.
One of the biggest topics that's getting a lot of attention in the community is juvenile justice and the possible need for juvenile justice reform. How do you feel your office is handling juvenile crime, and what changes do you think are needed?
Yeah, it's tough. As you can see in our annual report, we charged 9 juveniles with first-degree murder last year. And really, that's a society problem. I say that all the time. If a juvenile case comes across my desk, then we've already failed as a society. We're trying everything that we can on the juvenile side. We are filing petitions for extended jurisdiction. We are doing motions to transfer to adult court. I remember when I first started as a young assistant state's attorney back in 2000, we hardly had any juveniles that were charged with murder or even serious offenses. Now we do 10 a year. That's an incredible uptick that the laws have just not adapted to.
The annual report shows 24 juveniles charged in adult felony court last year, as well as a 28% decrease in overall juvenile justice charges and a 38% drop in vehicle theft-related charges, but a slight increase in weapons-related offenses. What do those trends suggest to you?
The increase is obviously the violent crime. Our juvenile violent crime, as you indicated, those numbers, the cases that we file to transfer to adult court, the murder cases that we file, the shootings, the armed robberies, those have been a steady increase for the last 3 to 5 years.
We also hear often from law enforcement leaders about problems with the Safety Act, and particularly with pretrial detention. The annual report shows 80% of the pretrial detentions your office requested were granted. But what have you heard from law enforcement? Do you think the system needs to be improved, and if so, how?
The one thing that the Safety Act does a good job of is holding high-level offenders in custody. So for the most part, you commit first-degree murder, you're going to stay in custody. That's a good thing. Where the Safety Act needs some changes are the low-level offenders. We had between a 30 to 45% increase in those low-level crimes. And it's because individuals are not being held in custody. They're getting right back out onto the street and committing that same offense again. And I think that's where the Safety Act is really lacking any teeth.
Looking at other overall trends, the report shows a 40% drop in felony drug charges, but many types of misdemeanor cases spiked. So how do you refute a common perception that crime is still rampant around Peoria?
Well, overall crime is down, but obviously there are certain areas that are still problems. We still have, as I mentioned, the violent juvenile offenders. One of the facts there on the drug cases, I want to point out that that's where specialty courts are very valuable. We had 100% success rate last year. I think we had 47 participants, somewhere around there, and not a single one of them committed a new offense. That's incredible.
That's Peoria County State's Attorney Jodi Hoos speaking with WCBU's Joe Deacon. You can find the full conversation at WCBU.org. I'm Ryan Denham, and you're listening to Morning Edition here on Peoria Public Radio.